Hi there, this is Marlene, you guys. Thank you for listening. I have to redo the podcast again because I went over myself, and this is what happened. When you don't ask for guidance or pray before you start a thing. But I'll just go ahead and just going on with the subject I'm on right now, which I'm in the book of Proverbs, as we all may know. Some of us who may not know is the book of wisdom. Now I read in Proverbs chapter 3, and I titled it "Wear Mercy and Grace Around Thy Neck." Now, chapter 3, verse 3 through 4 say, "Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the table of thine heart." And verse 4 says, "So shall thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man." And chapter 3, verses 21 and verses 21 and 23 says, "My son." Well, verses 21 through 23 says, correction, yeah. It's chapter, the second, the same chapter 3. The next three verses, chapter 21 to chapter 23, which says, "My son, let not them depart from thine eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion." And verse 22 says, so shall they be life unto thy soul, and grace to thy neck. And verse 23 say, then shall thou walk in thy way safely, and thy foot shall not stumble. Forgive me, you guys. I did some on the verses, but verses chapter 3, verses 3 through 4 says, "Let not mercy and truth forsake thee." When I take from this, as I'm contemplating now speaking, is when it says, "Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck, write them upon the table of thine heart." And verse 4, it says that, in doing so, basically, that in doing so, you'll find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Is basically from on this understanding here, it talks about more of an integrity, like to be honest, truthful, and to show humility and pity regardless of what's going on and regardless of the situation or circumstance. Like, we tend to be creatures of habit where at times most of us, as humans, where we could go from the same, like you could go to 0 from 100 within a second, meaning that how is it we as believers, we're supposed to be the representation of God on earth, but yet when we're in the world or things come up, and you hear this thing also that, oh, this person gonna take me out of my character, or this person is gonna make me act a fool in here. And you hear these a lot from those who are in the world, like sayings that's just ridiculous like that from the world. And we have to come to understand that's not how we supposed to be portraying, especially us being the representation, the ambassadors on this earth, representing the Lord. How is it that a person could take you out of your character? How is it that you're going to act a fool unless you allow yourself to be that fool? Unless you allow yourself to get out of character. Nobody can take you out of character. Nobody have that power to do so. You open up that door, that window, to allow the enemy to use you like a fool. To let the enemy, have that, put that spirit in you to make you act a certain way that'll make you act, that'll make you seem out of character. Because we know that the enemy is trying to find an opening, in our lives. And we know that, we do not, we're in a spiritual warfare, and we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. We're wrestling against this principalities, evil forces, and dark rulers of this earth. So how is it? And I have to examine myself as well, where when we read a chapter like this, and this is a simple verse, like with these two verses, it makes you analyze yourself too, because how is it that, okay, it says in the word, "Let not mercy and truth forsake thee." Let not that forsake you. Because if you're honest and you have integrity, that's like walking in the excellent spirit, basically. That's what me basically, summing that up. Don't you know that, you see favor in God's eye to live in the excellent spirit, to walk in excellency? Because I've heard this about the story of Daniel, how he had an excellent spirit, but and the king noticed him. And you will be noticed by God and man. And then you see, it says in verse 4 that so thou shalt find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. And think about it. You will find favor in the sight of God. God will open doors for you. God will protect you and cover you from these, spiritual warfares. Because, things come up. It really does come up in our life. Like for me, I keep bringing this job up because, it is a job. What happened a couple of weeks, well, last month, basically. But I have to be grateful because the situation happened. But I thank God I didn't lose my integrity. I was true to I was true to the situation that happened, and I stayed true. And and then that was being merciful, and I thank God for His grace, and because grace and mercy go hand in hand. And I thank God for what He did in that situation, because if flesh taken over, the enemy have taken over, he would have had a field day with that. And then, but I found favor with God, because God allowed a situation within that position to, for a person in that position to be moved to another department. And I was able to go back to the old position, even though the position, it was a pay cut. But, it makes me realize that God is with me. He is Jehovah Shammah, and He's with me all the time. And it's nice to show mercy to your enemies too. Those who you may call your enemy, those who may treat you wrong, those who may have, start a rumor about you. Show mercy. Because in the end, remember the word say vengeance is God's and God's alone. It's not up to us to show, to retaliate, to be let me say that, to be foolish. In the book of Proverbs, it talks about, how, the foolishness of people, it leads to sluggardness, it leads to death, it leads to a lot of things being foolish. Okay, and let me go ahead and chapter 3 verses 21 and 23 say, my son, let not them depart from thine eyes. Keep sound wisdom in discretion. And verse 22 says, so shall they be life unto thy soul, and grace to thy neck. And verse 23 says, then shalt thou walk in thy way safely, and thy foot shall not stumble. And I like how this chapter in verses 21 to 23, it said, let not depart from thy eyes, and keep sound wisdom and discretion. Now, these two chapters go hand in hand when it comes to characteristics, really. The first one to me is more about showing mercy, having integrity. Where the second one to me is saying now, using sound wisdom and discretion. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking that not everything has to be known or shown. Like, are you a person that's loud, or, are you that person that don't have that integrity? Like, again, it goes back to integrity. Are you that person, individual that, when you're stepping out, how do people perceive you? How you perceive yourself, really? And that's something you have to ask yourself. When people talk to you or people see you, when you start talking, do you even give time to listen? Or do you sometimes, when you're speaking, or you may feel like, this person don't understand me, excuse me, this person may not understand me or offend me. But do you take time to just step back and just listen, and just put yourself in a posture where at time where you have to examine yourself? Because what you're portraying here, what you are is what you're portraying when you step out, even when you're indoor, when you're at home. Are you a person that likes to be in arguments? Are you a person that likes to be right all the time? Are you the person that has to have the last word? Are you a person that has to, be, seen and not heard all the time? Are you, or vice versa? Do you like to be heard and seen at the same time? That's how I want to put it. Yes, because I'm thinking about celebrities in this, in this day, like, the rich and the famous, like people, especially the worldly people. A lot, if you notice this, if you do watch social media, 'cause I don't watch social media as much, but when I used to, a lot of these people follow celebrities. They want to know the car they're driving, their family is, business and all that. I mean, you have your life. Why is it another person life matters to you? Because people who are rich and famous have that issue too, where they desire that privacy, and some of them probably thinking to themselves, this is me assuming now, that if they could do this all over again, would they do it differently, or would they pursue stardom? Because it doesn't matter if you're the rich and famous or poor, we all go through issues. The thing about this here is say that we'll keep sound wisdom and discretion, because sometimes not everything needs to be put out there about yourself. It's nice to be, it's nice to have things about yourself to be hidden, meaning not not in a bad way, but not everything that you're that's about you needs to be an open book. You have to use wisdom in that area, because it's like giving a testimony. There's a season and time for a testimony, and there's a season and time where you want to, if you want to share your story that may help somebody or encourage someone, there's a time and season for that. But you don't have to, you don't have to be like a person a person who, like in a reality show, who put out all their business out there, and then in the long run, who does it benefit? Yes, you get the money, but the psychologically, how it does it affect your children? How does it affect you psychologically? That's what I'm saying. Like, at times it's best to keep things to yourself, because verse 22 in chapter 3 says, so shall they be life unto thy soul and grace to thy neck. Then, and then verse 23 says, then shalt thou walk in thy way safely, and thy foot shall not stumble. Meaning that when you have wisdom and that discretion, it will be life to your soul. And that's why I was, and then I was referencing the rich and the famous, because especially those who are in a reality show, because wisdom actually adds on understanding and knowledge. When ask God for it, because the Bible say that if whatever gift that you're, God will not withhold any special, any gift that from you. Just ask and it shall be given, knock and the door shall open. Because he will not, God is not short in his hand to bless you with wisdom, because we all need wisdom and discretion in this season. And we need, because and I like the fact that verse 23 says that then shalt thou walk in thy way safely. And and this is what we have to have an understanding of too. You want to walk in that way safely, and that you don't want to stumble in a walk of life, especially when we're believers. And I like the fact that when he said, the word say use, keep sound wisdom and discretion. But not everything is meant to be a show in our life, and not everything needs to be shown. There's a season where your season is coming, where God is going to use you for his glory and purpose. Remember, we're not here for vainglory. We're not here to edify ourselves for the riches and none of that. That's not life. True life is really living the life that we're called to live, not according to our will, but to the will of God. With surrendering, with true surrendering our will to him, our everything to him, knowing that that if for his good and it working best for our life, and that living under his presence, and learning from the Holy Spirit, living with the Holy Spirit, we have protection, we have we have peace and joy. Even that time when we feel that we're alone, we're not. God is with us. So I hope I said something that will bless and edify you today, and I want to say God bless you and have a blissful day. Thank you.